So I made a promise in my last Rings of Power video to make a follow-up video about how the Rings of Power is doing exactly what they said they were going to do, and they were going to claim success even though the numbers and everything, literally everything, is pointing otherwise. They try to make more grand numeric values that don't really exist. So they try to talk about, oh yeah, we had 100 million viewers. Are they separate viewers? Are they like the same viewers that just watched multiple times? Can you explain that number? No, they don't want to explain it. Okay, not a problem. What about the fact that you had a massive drop off in viewership after the first episode, like a huge drop off that continued after the second and third episode, all the way to the point where you fell off the ratings? And they don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about minutes watched. They want to talk about viewership numbers as a whole, but they don't want to talk about separate viewerships. What they were actual separate households? Was it people watching multiple times that were dunking on it? Nobody wants to explain it, and yet they want to constantly come out and say that they were super successful and they can't wait for season 2. Why? Because like I said in my last video, their ego is heavily tied into Amazon's The Rings of Power. They're heavily tied into it. Amazon needs this show. They need it to succeed, and they need all the normies to believe that it is successful, because otherwise they're going to have to admit that they might have to cancel this show. And there's no way in hell they're going to cancel this show at all. I promise you. If they do, I'll be the first one to admit I was wrong. So let's get into this article, guys, from Niche Gamer. This is not Bounding Into Comics, Niche Gamer, where it says Amazon says The Rings of Power has more than paid off, and it teases bigger battles in Season 2. So one of the biggest issues with Season 1's critiques is that Season 1 was definitely slow, okay? It was an extremely slow show. There was nothing ever happening. I mean, the battles that happened in Season 1 weren't even really battles. It was pretty pathetic. They wouldn't last very long at all. I think the biggest battle happened towards the end, and even that one was probably half of an episode, and they're an hour long, so you really didn't do too much, and you were kind of dragging your feet throughout the entire season. And the funny thing is, you dragged your feet because you were trying to do world building, but everybody saw what you were going to do from a mile away. Everybody knew who Sauron was from the first episode. Like, you weren't really world building to build any kind of suspense, because we saw what was coming a mile away. So that was the ironic thing about it. But still, the point is, Amazon was going to come out and say that they were a super successful show no matter what. There was no way in hell they were going to admit that they were ever not successful. And we knew that was going to come because they said it. You got to believe when they say certain things directly, you have to believe them. Because when they say it directly, that means they really mean it. And they're going to come out and they're going to do it. And that's exactly what they're doing. So it says, despite widespread backlash from longtime fans, Amazon is saying The Rings of Power has apparently succeeded, even with its massive budget. Amazon Studios Global TV head Vernon Sanders, who I said in last video, he's in the headlines now. So he's like this season's Disa, right? So he's this season's Sophia Nombet. He's the one who's going to come out and talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. He's the one who's going to come out and defend Amazon. He's the one who's going to constantly be running these interviews, it seems, because he's the new latest poster child for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Sophia Nombet is basically disappeared from the headlines. You know, we've said that multiple times. The last one was on December 13th, I believe, when she was talking about the song she made in the first season, and that was it. Really, even before that, there was months where she basically disappeared after the show came out. So Vernon Sanders is the one who's in the headlines now. It says Amazon Studios Global TV head Vernon Sanders says that the prequel TV series has more than paid off, suggesting its huge $465 million budget was recouped. Highly doubted. I highly doubt it. And the funny thing is, they're going to mention something that I've mentioned before, and we're going to go over it. It's in its third paragraph. So it says, Sanders noted the series broke Prime Video's records, bringing in a younger 18 to 34 audience and hitting over 100 million viewers. So 100 million viewers. Is that 100 million separate viewers? Is that 100 million viewers total throughout the entire show? Like, what does that mean? And the funny thing is, they never want to explain what that means, because they know if they have to explain it, then they're eventually going to have to go down that rabbit hole of admitting that this show was just not great, right? So they're not going to do that. They're not going to tell you exactly what that means, and they are trying to indoctrinate the younger audience. They're not going after the older audience. The people who actually know Tolkien, the people who actually know Lord of the Rings and the lore behind that, they're not going after those guys. They're going after the younger crowd, because that's the crowd that they want to indoctrinate. That's the crowd that's easily manipulated. That's the crowd that's going to eat up whatever content is thrown at them. That's just the truth. And I think even 30 to 34 is still older. I don't really think they're aiming for that. I think they're aiming more for 18 to like 26 probably. They're going for the super young crowd. So it says the Prime Video boss suggested the series also, this is the big one, also boosted sales on Tolkien's original works, a company-wide success, as several of his original novels climbed back into Amazon's best-selling books. Now, with that being said, I originally said that was going to be a thing. I knew that with Lord of the Rings of Power, it was going to generate heavy sales towards the books because people knew that the show was garbage. People were hearing nonstop that the lore is being butchered. So what are they going to do? They're going to go and buy the books. Unfortunately, a lot of people bought the books from Amazon and didn't support other outlets that have these books. That's the problem. Amazon knew that even if the show was going to be bad, the books were going to get a boost in sales and they get a cut from that. So that's going to make them their money even if they lost it on the show. So the show itself is being considered a success, but the funny thing is, it's not the show. It's a company-wide success, like this article says, because they sold so many of the books. And that's one thing I wanted to talk about in this video. If you guys want to buy the books and you want to support Tolkien's works separately from Amazon, don't buy it through Amazon. Do not buy the books through Amazon. Buy the books through somewhere else. Don't go through Amazon, because if you do, you're falling exactly into their plan regarding the show. They're using the show to bolster the book sales. That's the thing. So it says Amazon is proceeding with another season of The Rings of Power, focusing on the return and the rise of Sauron. Considering this, Amazon claims to have learned from the criticisms of the first season, promising bigger battles from the books in season 2. Listen, dude, it's not. They didn't learn shit, okay? They didn't learn anything. I promise you they learned nothing. You want to know how they learned nothing? Because in my last video, I talked about literally how Vernon Sanders was coming out and saying that they're going to double down on what they did in season 1, and they're going to continue with the whole diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense, the race swapping of characters in season 2. They've learned nothing. They don't want to learn anything. That's the thing. Promise me that you guys are not going to watch this show. I will watch it for you, unfortunately, and I'll review it and tell you how terrible it is, and we'll have fun together dunking on the show. But do not buy the books. If you want to explore the books, do not buy the books through Amazon, because that's going to fall you directly into their plan. It says, we are going to be faster, Sanders said. We are going to be able to put more money on screen just in terms of the scale and scope of what we're doing now, that we know how to do it. I don't believe you, because in the first season, what's a bigger battle compared to the first season? The first season has such terribly short, like minuscule battles. A bigger battle would just be something that's 5 minutes longer. Honestly, I don't believe them at all. So it says, Lord of the Rings of Power Season 1 has been available exclusively via Amazon Prime Video. One of the funny things is that they love to compare themselves to themselves. Like, you're talking about how you broke Prime Video's previous records. What about anybody else? Like, why are you comparing yourself only to yourself? That's the funny thing. Like, they consider themselves their own competition, and that's it. Nobody else. Like, you guys know that your show does not stack up to anything out there. That's the sad thing. Like, House of the Dragon destroyed you in every single way imaginable, and it's terrible to even like the fact that they even try to come out and put themselves in the same sentence is really insulting. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy, and if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought of today's story, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.